and welcome to another exciting episode of Nerd Central. I'm Devin Van Zant. Krista will be back next week. We have our next installments of Digital Dreams, Anime Academy, and Taking a Bite. Plus, we have the championship match in our Best Star Wars Character Tournament on Showdown. And speaking of Star Wars, our producer had the opportunity to go to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. Let's head over to Cody Nance, who is with Andy, to talk about his experience at the event. Cody?
Thanks, Devin. I'm here with Andy Johnson, our producer, and he had the chance to go to Chicago for Star Wars Celebration this weekend. Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience?
It's basically the same thing with you when we all went to Comic-Con, how you came back and you're just like, this was the best experience of my life.
Well, I'm sure this is going to be hard for you, but what was your favorite moment?
It wasn't just a moment. It was actually one of the panels. On Saturday, they had a Star Wars Let's Play with Sam Witwer, who's Starkiller, Gina Gavankar, who's Iden Versio, and Daniel Logan, who is the younger Boba Fett, from episode 2. And they just played Super Star Wars, they played episode 1 Racer, they played Bounty Hunter. Sam Witwer played Force Unleashed, and he killed himself.
Well, we have a very happy Andy here. Back to you, Devin.
Cody? Thanks, Cody. And speaking of celebration, here's the biggest news to come out of the event. Now,
did you know that wasn't me?
Of course.
Whatever you do, don't reach within.
I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here?
now let's take it to Taking a Bite with Katie.
Good evening and welcome to Taking a Bite with me, Katie. Last week I put Deep Blue Sea up against the Meg, and the Meg defeated three-time champ Deep Blue Sea. This week I will be putting the Meg up against Jaws the Revenge. Who will come out on top? That's what we are here to find out. Jaws the Revenge is the fourth Jaws movie, or as some people say, the worst Jaws movie out of the series. Jaws the Revenge is still about the Brody family, but with a twist. This movie follows Ellen Brody, Chief Brody's wife, after he dies from a heart attack. The movie starts out with Ellen Brody's younger son, Sean, who is now a police deputy, out in the middle of the ocean. He then gets eaten by a shark. After her son's death, she moves to the Bahamas with her older son, Michael. It seems kind of confusing, but hear me out. Once they are in the Bahamas, Michael and a friend of his go onto his boat when they see a shark. Michael doesn't want his mom to know about the shark because she tends to become obsessive. Ellen later witnesses another shark attack and is convinced that the shark is after her family. Michael and his friend make an explosive device to try to kill the shark. After multiple attempts, it is finally successful. Now, I've always loved Jaws, but Jaws the Revenge is just not impressive whatsoever. The first shark attack is just so disappointing. It's just clips of everything close up. Water, his clothes, an arm, but there's no attack in it. It almost looks as if you dropped a camera and then you picked it up and that's what it would film. It just seems so dramatic. Ellen thinks that this specific shark waited around all this time to kill her son, and then she's trying to say that this specific shark killed her husband, even though he died of a heart attack. The writing behind this movie is just terrible. It seems like more of a soap opera than a sci-fi thriller. Then finally, after all of this time, you see a shark attack. Out of nowhere, she wakes up from a dream. Are you serious? On top of all of that, she starts to have visions of the sharks, as if it couldn't get any better than that. Now, considering the year this movie came out, the shark isn't really that bad. But what I still don't get is how this specific shark knew to follow them all the way from where they were to the Bahamas. Alright, it's that time again. It's time for another Shark Showdown. The Meg versus Jaws the Revenge. Who will be tonight's winner of the Shark Showdown? Can I get a drum roll, please? Try not to be too surprised here, but the winner of this week's Shark Showdown is the Meg. As I mentioned before, I love Jaws, but this is just a letdown of the whole series. The Meg has thrill, comedy, and emotion. Tune in to Taking a Bite next week, where I will be putting the Meg up against the movie that paved ways for shark movies, Jaws.
Thanks, Katie. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have our next installments of Digital Dreams and Anime Academy, plus all the news that is not Star Wars Celebration related. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nerd Central. Let's head into the news of the week. The renewals just keep coming. 3 shows have been given another season, with one unfortunately coming to an end. Hulu's Future Man has been given a 3rd and final season. The show follows a janitor played by Josh Hutcherson, who is told by 2 warriors from the future that he is the key to stopping an apocalyptic event. The final season will consist of only 8 episodes, as opposed to the 13 we were given in seasons 1 and 2. The series debuted back in 2017 and is executive produced by Seth Rogen. Elizabeth Koop and Derek Wilson star alongside Hutcherson as the 2 warriors from the future, Tiger and Wolf. The 2nd season dropped on the streaming service earlier this year, with the 3rd and final season dropping hopefully sometime in 2020. The next show getting renewed is American Horror Story. Told as an anthology series, the show will be returning for a 9th season, and we have the title. The season will be titled American Horror Story 1984. The creator of the show, Ryan Murphy, posted the teaser to his Instagram, starting the speculations. As an anthology series, the cast for the most part remains the same, but the characters they play change with each season. The title seems to indicate this season will tackle the slasher films of the 1980s, or this might be a huge crossover with Wonder Woman 1984. Anything and everything is on the table. My personal prediction? It's a Let's Play series where the cast just plays Battlefield 1984 for 10 hours. American Horror Story 1984 will be hitting the airwaves this fall. The final show getting renewed is Barry. The critically acclaimed HBO show will be getting a 3rd season, but unlike Future Man, this one doesn't seem to be leaving anytime soon. The series follows Barry, a hitman played by Bill Hader, who moves to Los Angeles and catches the acting bug. It debuted last year, winning 3 Emmys for its first season, including Bill Hader for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, Henry Winkler for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series as Barry's acting coach, and Outstanding Sound Mixing. You can catch the 2nd season as it airs Sundays alongside Game of Thrones on HBO. In other television news, our favorite forgettable Avenger is getting his own series on the Disney Plus streaming service. Marvel is reportedly developing a Hawkeye series that will have Jeremy Renner reprise his role as he passes the moniker off to Katie Bishop, who will use it as a part of the Young Avengers. Renner has played Clint Barton since 2011's Thor, where he had a cameo role as the archer tasked to prevent Thor from retrieving Mjolnir. Renner returned to the role in 2012 with The Avengers, 2015 with Avengers Age of Ultron, and 2016 with Captain America Civil War. He was notably absent from the events of Avengers Infinity War, but will be seen in this year's Avengers Endgame, donning a new outfit and a new name. Marvel is also working on series for Scarlet Witch, Vision, Loki, Falcon, and Bucky. The series will only have a limited run and will consist of around 8 episodes. No word on when any of these series will be coming to the streaming service, but when we know, you'll know. Now let's take it to our anime segments, Digital Dreams and Anime Academy.
Hello, and welcome to this week's segment of Anime Academy. In this segment, we will be discussing the shonen genre. The shonen genre has been around forever. I've referenced it in many segments of mine, but I haven't really explained it. Shonen anime are shows that are targeted towards young adults and teens and are focused towards boys. They have tons of fighting and are often hundreds of episodes long, and some even go into the thousands. They all have some tropes that they tend to follow: world-spanning adventures, tournaments, fighting newer and stronger enemies, etc. These shows are so popular because they are often a power fantasy. They let the viewer feel like they are the ones getting stronger and meeting new foes. There are a ton of great shonen shows, but there are some that are more popular than others. What discussion about shonen would be complete without mentioning Naruto? Naruto is one of, if not the most popular shonen show of all time, and is still technically going to this day. This show hooked people on the cool fights and interesting power system. The story isn't half bad either. What hurts it is its plague of filler. The shonen genre is no stranger to giant filler arcs and non-canon episodes. Filler was common back in the day because they had to let the manga get ahead so that they didn't pass it. It may be annoying, but at the time it was very important. Another great shonen show is One Piece. This show is still going to this day and is one of the longest running anime out there, if not the longest. This show takes globe-trotting adventures to heart, as the characters are literally traveling across the world trying to find the legendary treasure, the One Piece. This show has its fair share of filler, but it usually is done well and the casual viewer won't notice. As we have seen, shonen shows are pretty daunting to get into. The long and linear storylines and complex worlds make it an often intimidating thing to try and enjoy. While there are some gripes that people have with the genre, there are some great stories to be told. So next time you see one on, give it a try, because you just might get into the series. This was Drew with Anime Academy, and thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome back to Digital Dreams. I'm Devin Van Zant, and this week we're covering a very special season of Digimon, Digimon Universe Apply Monsters, or Appmon for short. Appmon is considered its own separate spin-off franchise of Digimon, but it's still part of the larger Digimon universe. The series takes place in the year 2045, which is the first time a Digimon series takes place in a world completely different from our own. Yes, Tamers is the only season that technically takes place in the quote-unquote real world, and yes, Adventure 02 takes place 2 years after its real-world release date. But still, every season takes place in a mostly accurate representation of Japan, usually in or near present-day Tokyo. In the future world of Appmon, humanity has reached a sort of technological golden age, with smartphones and tablets being the primary method of communication over the internet. As such, a new type of Digimon called Appmon are born, and are the web's primary inhabitants. Appmon, like most Digimon, are based on computer programs, but they're an entirely different animal than most Digimon. While most non-Cross Wars Digimon have levels, Appmon have grades. Digivolution does not exist, but if an Appmon performs an App fusion with a compatible Appmon, it can move up the evolutionary chain. When the two defuse, they create a chip that can summon the new Appmon without performing App fusion. However, only specific Appmon are compatible, so it is possible for a fusion to fail. Similar to Digicross, Appmon can also connect the cables on their backs to AppLink. This creates an Appmon with 1.5 times the power of its base form, plus the power of its link partner. These evolutions are achieved by using this season's Digivice, the Apply Drive. These drives are held by humans, which are called Apply Drivers in this season, although when you refer to them in relation to their Digimon partner, they're called Buddies. Appmon are also different in that they don't have the attributes that Digimon have. Instead, they have types that dictate what kind of app they were born from. Appmon is another season that doesn't deal with the digital world so much. While some episodes do take place in the net ocean where Appmon are originally from, others take place in AR fields, spaces between the net ocean and the human world, which is basically just Digiquartz all over again. I'm actually fine with that. Seems like they're handling the concept a little bit better than Hunters did anyway. The main villain is an entity named Leviathan, who is creating viruses to infect Appmon across the web. An opposing force named Minerva selects Apply Drivers to fight the infection, including a character who is, and I quote, a famous AppTuber. First Dragon Ball, now Digimon. What do you want from me, YouTube? You already have my whole life! I haven't seen any of this show, save from what I've been editing for this video, but that being said, through my research, I feel like there was a little more thought and polish put into this than some of the other more recent projects. It's a spin-off and it definitely shows, but it still seems really fun and creative. I'm actually going to give this show a shot and see if it delivers. Maybe you should too. That's going to do it for me. We'll see you next time on Digital Dreams. Thanks, me. Drew, I guess. Let's stick with the MCU for a minute. Avengers Endgame started pre-selling tickets for its release later this month and managed to break some records. The film sold more pre-sale tickets than any other movie before it. It accumulated 5 times as many pre-sales in the first 24 hours than the previous Avengers film Infinity War did. It also broke the record for most tickets sold in the first week of pre-sale. The previous holder of that record was Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Some theaters around the country have even started adding more showings of the film to accommodate the influx of pre-sales. The film will also be the longest MCU film to date, clocking in at just over 3 hours long. Early projections have the movie making $900 million worldwide in its opening weekend. The film is the culmination of a connected universe, 21 films in the making. Avengers Endgame will be released on April 26th. Now let's move to another branch of Disney, the live-action remakes. The Lion King dropped its first official trailer last week, and we got our first look at Scar, voiced by Chiwetel Ejiofor, Zazu, voiced by John Oliver, Timon and Pumbaa, voiced by Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen, respectively. The film is entirely CGI, but it sure doesn't look like it. The film will be released on July 19th with a star-studded voice cast, including Beyoncé, Donald Glover, Keegan-Michael Key, John Connie, and James Earl Jones. That's going to do it for the news. You can watch all of our previous episodes on the KNWT YouTube page. You can also follow KNWT on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can follow Nerd Central on Twitter at nerd_central_TV. Which is the best Star Wars character? When we come back, we'll head into Nerd Showdown to find out. Hello everyone and welcome to Nerd Showdown, the part of Nerd Central where we battle it out on a particular topic we have no business debating. With Star Wars Celebration this past weekend, we asked the question once and for all, who is the best Star Wars character? Keep in mind our fighters will be diving deep into their respective characters, so this is your spoiler warning. Let's meet our fighters. First, I have the creator of Force Feeding and Dead on Arrival, Cody Nance. Cody, who did you pick this week?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Classic. And next to him, I have the producer of Nerd Central, Andy Johnson. Andy, which character have you chosen?
R2-D2.
Another classic. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Well, then let's showdown. Cody, why don't you start us off? Why do you believe Obi-Wan Kenobi is the best Star Wars character ever?
Alright, so Obi-Wan Kenobi, literally speaking, is the man, the myth, and the legend. The man, he went through tons of training to become the Jedi he was, and rose to the top as a Jedi Master. But then one little bad Padawan, bad apple we could say, brought him back down and like made him into this little hermit living in there. And that's the most human thing any of these films or characters have done. He is the only reason the Jedi Order has survived. Like, yeah, Yoda was out there, but he wasn't looking over anybody. Like, if he wouldn't have trained Luke and dragged him to Alderaan with him, then Luke wouldn't have become a Jedi, Luke wouldn't have opened his new school, Rey would just be a desert junker, and we would no longer have the Jedi and the First Order reign supreme. He is the first Jedi in thousands of years to kill a Sith.
All right, solid argument. Andy, your rebuttal. Why is R2-D2 the best character?
R2-D2 has been with us since the beginning. Kind of a history. He started in the service of Padme. He's actually the droid that, saved her ship so they could find Anakin and all that fun stuff. Then 10 years later, he becomes Anakin's droid. He's also the one that's given the task of carrying the Death Star plans in the original movie. It's kind of a big deal. He's Luke's droid through the entire original trilogy. Arguably, he's the mascot for the entire Star Wars universe. Like, if anybody sees him, he's been in multiple films besides Star Wars. He's been in 9 of the 10 films of Star Wars. He's also been in Star Trek. He's also been in all other films. He's kind of the face of Star Wars.
Fair enough. Cody, Your rebuttal. Why is R2-D2 not as great as Andy says he is?
Well, one of the reasons it's kind of hard to argue against R2 is he's barely a character. He goes through no arc. Every movie, back to back, he's the same thing. He's just there for a punchline, to sell toys, and that's about it. Like, it's really hard to relate to a character that does not speak. For The Force Awakens, he was nothing more than an ex machina, apparently, where he just wakes up at the end of the film for no reason and says, hey, I have the rest of the map, guys. We're gonna go have a good time the next film. They did not have a good time the next film.
Andy, your rebuttal to his rebuttal to your rebuttal. Why is Obi-Wan not that great?
Okay, first I want to say, perfect casting. I'm just gonna say that right now. Perfect casting. Anyway.
Off to a good start. On
I know. I understand. I just wanted to get that out there. This is a really hot take. He is a terrible teacher. First off, like you said, he trained the Dark Lord of the Sith. So he trained Anakin Skywalker, and then he turned into Darth Vader. So he did not do his job on that. He was also kind of the co-master of Ahsoka Tano from Clone Wars, kind of. The Jedi Order accuses her of bombing the temple, and he, along with the other council members, kick her out. And when they find out that she didn't do it, they say, hey, you can come back. But she's like, no, you guys betrayed me. So again, bad teacher. The worst part that really ticks me off is after Luke finds out that Vader is his father, and he confronts Obi-Wan on Dagobah and says, why didn't you tell me? He says, I did, from a certain point of view, which infuriates me to no end, because that's not how a teacher should talk to their pupil.
All right, Cody, wrap it all up in a neat little package for us. Why do you think R2-D2 sucks and Obi-Wan owns?
Okay, so training Anakin's just a nightmare to begin with. Like, who can handle that much angst? Everybody turned against Ahsoka. Even Anakin turned against Ahsoka during that arc. And yeah, Obi-Wan does lie to Luke, but you gotta think, this is their last chance at keeping the Force alive. He's not gonna go tell him, hey, your daddy's the Dark Lord of the Sith. You wanna go join him? No, he's gonna do his best to keep him on the side of the light.
Wrap it up for me. What's your final argument?
R2-D2, I don't know of anything else I can say about him. R2-D2, he's just a lovable character. He's literally like the person inside, Kenny Baker, may he rest in peace. When he was on set, he has beeps and boops because he's swearing. That's literally true. Kenny Baker always swore to Anthony Daniels. Like he dropped all the 7 deadly words on set. It was fantastic. So that's why they had to put the beeps in there, because he was swearing. He doesn't have to have a story arc. He's a great character, and he is just so lovable.
That's gonna do it for this week's Nerd Showdown. I believe the winner this week was Andy with R2-D2. Now, each week we have a Twitter poll regarding the topic at hand, and our special guest, Mikey, has been keeping an eye on it all week. Mikey, how'd the fans vote?
Now, it's actually quite different. Obi-Wan Kenobi, 25. R2-D2, 12.
It's a disparity I did not expect. They've been actually pretty close, some of them, this semester.
Well, honestly, I think Andy, R2-D2, he has to win.
You can head to Nerd Central's Twitter to vote for next week's poll. Nerdmageddon is coming up next. We'll catch you next week on Nerd Central.